I can still feel the phantom weight of her hand slipping from mine. It is a cold sensation, like ice water running through my veins that hasn't left me for 50 years. It wasn't the freezing water of the Chicago River that killed her. It wasn't even the ship itself, though God knows it was built to kill. It was me. History books will tell you that the SS Eastland disaster on July 24, 1915, was a senseless tragedy of engineering. They will recite the numbers: 844 dead, 22 entire families wiped out, a disaster in the heart of the city. They call it a math error, a blueprint failure. But for me, this isn't history. It is a murder confession. I was the one who worked the extra shifts to buy the tickets. I was the one who laughed at her trembling hands when she sensed danger. I was the one who forced her onto that death trap because I was too proud to turn back. And 20 minutes later, I stood helpless as the river turned into a mass grave. Here is the story of how I drowned the love of my life just 5 feet from the shore. Let's wind the clock back to when the world was still bright. 6:30 a.m. The morning air was thick, smelling of coal dust from the factories, roasting peanuts from street vendors, and the cheap lavender perfume Clara wore on special occasions. It was supposed to be the perfect day. The Western Electric Company picnic, a day of freedom for the working class. I remember catching my reflection in a shop window. I adjusted my silk tie, feeling like a king. The ticket cost 75 cents, a fortune for a factory worker like me, but I paid it gladly. I wanted to show off. I wanted every man on that dock to envy me, not for my money, but because I had Clara on my arm. There she was, the SS Eastland, sitting in the muddy water like a sleeping giant. She was sleek, white, and massive, a symbol of modern engineering. But as we approached the wooden gangplank, the air changed. Clara stopped dead. She squeezed my arm, her knuckles turning white, digging into my skin. "Elias," she whispered, her voice shaking so much I could barely hear her. "Look at it. It doesn't look right. It's leaning." I looked up. The ship was listing slightly to the port side, just a few degrees, swaying gently like a drowsy beast waking from slumber. My pride flared up. I didn't see the danger. I only saw my plans being ruined. "Don't be a coward, Clara," I snapped, my ego bruising instantly. "Look at the crowd. Thousands of people are getting on. Do you think you know better than the captain, than the engineers?" That was the moment I sealed her fate. With a sharp, impatient tug of her arm, I pulled her aboard. I literally dragged her into her grave. We stepped onto the deck, and immediately the floor felt wrong. It wasn't solid. It was shifting under our feet, unstable, like walking on a floating log. You see, 3 years earlier, the Titanic had sunk. The world was in a panic. Politicians passed a law requiring lifeboats for every single passenger. It sounded safe, but it was a fatal miscalculation. To comply with the law, The owners of the Eastland piled tons of concrete and heavy steel lifeboats onto the upper deck. They didn't care about physics, they cared about regulations. Deep in the hull, the ship's metacentric height, the very math that keeps a ship upright, was ruined. It was top-heavy, a skyscraper built on a toothpick, a blueprint designed for decay. By 7:10 a.m., 2,500 people were packed on board. The heat became suffocating. The air was thick with heavy cigar smoke, sweat, and nervous laughter. To escape the crushing crowd on the deck, I made my second mistake. "Let's go inside to the salon," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "There's a band playing. It'll be cooler." We walked down the stairs. We walked into the hull. We walked into a steel coffin and closed the lid behind us. 7:16 a.m. The list to port reached 15 degrees. In the grand salon, the atmosphere changed instantly. The jazz band stopped playing mid-song. The laughter died out, replaced by a low, confused murmur. I watched a glass of lemonade on a mahogany table. It didn't just vibrate, it began to slide. Slowly at first, fighting the friction, and then faster. It fell off the edge, shattering on the floor. That sound was like a gunshot in the silence. Deep below us, the crew was frantically trying to pump water into the ballast tanks to balance the ship, but the pumps were too slow. The river was already pouring in through the lower portholes, darkening the glass. I looked at Clara. She wasn't crying anymore. She stood perfectly still, wrapping her arm around a heavy wooden pillar. Her white dress seemed to glow in the dim, flickering light. She looked at me with eyes that were older than 19. There was no anger left, only a terrible acceptance. "Elias," she whispered, her lips barely moving. "Hold my hand." She knew. Before the captain screaming orders that no one heard, before the crew started running, she knew. 7:28 a.m. Gravity finally won the battle. The ship didn't sink, it rolled. It simply lay down on its side like a dying animal surrendering to the ground. The world turned 90 degrees. The floor became a wall. The wall became the ceiling. It was a chaotic avalanche. Furniture, chairs, tables, and human bodies fell into a heap. The grand piano broke loose from its bolts with a deafening crack. I watched in horror as it slid across the room like a massive sledgehammer, crushing everything in its path. Then came the water. It crashed in through the open gangways, a massive wall of black, oily sludge. It hit us with the force of a freight train. The cold was shocking. The darkness was instant. "Don't let go," I screamed, swallowing water. But physics is cruel. As the water swallowed us, a heavy oak table slammed into me, knocking the breath from my lungs. My grip broke. I saw her one last time, Clara, suspended in the dark, murky water. Her white dress billowed around her like angel wings, glowing against the gloom. She reached for me, her fingertips brushing mine, but the current was too strong. It ripped her away. Then the lights went out, and there was only the sound of rushing water and silence. I woke up coughing oil and mud on the side of the steel hull. A stranger pulled me out through a hole cut by a welder's torch. I sat there, shivering in the sun, covered in grime. It was 7:30 a.m. The entire disaster had lasted less time than it takes to smoke a cigarette. I sat on the cold steel of the overturned ship, which now rose from the river like a gray island. I watched the water. I waited for a white dress to surface among the floating hats and picnic baskets. I waited as they pulled 844 bodies from the wreckage, laying them out under white blankets. I waited until the sun went down and the city lights turned on. She never came up. I'm an old man now. The world has forgotten the Eastland. They have forgotten the names, but I haven't. Every night, when the rain hits my window, I dream of that gangplank. In my dream, the sun is shining. Clara grabs my arm and says, "It doesn't feel right." And in my dream, I listen. I don't argue. I take her hand, we turn our backs on the ship, and we walk away into the warm city light. We go home. We live. But then, I wake up.
Trust me. Subscribe. You'll love what comes next.